Sarah Quinlan has been here for several years. She kicks off our session. She is brilliant. She's MasterCard's Senior Vice President of Market Insights, and she is a great person to help us put the facts on the table so we can begin our journey of education here at the conference. With that, Sarah.
All right. We're going to fly fast and furious through this data. Now, remember, though, I do not want to be boring, right? So the key thing to understand about this, there's a lot of numbers you're going to see, but they all have insights. And that's the difference. The difference is we've always produced a lot of data. You all have a ton of data, but do you use it? I want you to think of the 5 things during my talk that you need to know, and how frequently do you need to know them to successfully drive your business. You don't need to know everything. The key is to really say, are there 5 different ways I benchmark my business? I understand, a different insight to really see the way the consumer is morphing. Those are the types of things that are so critical. But first of all, I want to do a shout out to the students here. I thank you so much for the privilege of teaching 3 classes yesterday. I was honored. It was great. I had amazing questions. These are amazing students. You all need to get a round of applause because they are asking great questions and doing good stuff. And I'll be back to do it again. All right, so lawyers, you have them. All right, next thing. We're going to talk about global macro trends. Why does it matter? We are in a world that's global. You all have cell phones, multiple ones. That makes you global. That makes you understand that discovery, we're no longer working about U.S. retailing. 1 penny change in the U.S. dollar versus other currencies, we see money come flying across the border one way or the other. It's really important. So you need to understand the good news. And remember, my nickname from 30 years on Wall Street is Duchess of Doom. So if I'm positive, you have to really take advantage of this one, all right? All right, now the key thing to really appreciate is that we can see that we have seen a turn in many of these economies. And finally, especially South America, right? Very important that they've come out of recession. These are critical things because one of the things that's very important is there are certain sectors in the United States in retail which really only benefit from non-US shoppers. So it is critical to see the rest of the world turning. However, I do not want to note that we are seeing a slowing in Asia. There is no doubt that China has made a decision to continue to internally focus, and that is going to have an impact for the rest of the world, and something we do have to watch. The other thing that's very important is to recognize the weaker dollar. This is critical because we had seen a stop in all cross-border tourism coming in here, basically. And that was very, very important in many places, New York, Miami, Los Angeles, San Francisco, where, destination hubs where that consumer was not coming in here anymore because it was too expensive, right? So seeing that weaker dollar has actually started to promote some of that spending. I brought that data for you as well. But it is a key thing I want you to think about. Whoever thought you'd all become currency traders? But let me let you know that all the 340 million Americans are currency traders, and believe me, they go shopping in Canada the minute it's cheaper up there. So know that that becomes a competitor to you that you never thought maybe you had. It's an important one. All right. Now, one of the things that we do at MasterCard, all right, it's our secret sauce, like the formula of Coca-Cola, is we take the 160 million transactions we see an hour, yes, that's an hour, and we add 1.5 million rules and algorithms plus additional data to bring it up to total retail spend, including cash and check. So every number you're going to see is the entire economy going on there. Now, if I told you how we did it, I'd have to bring you home with me, and my house only fits so many. So just understand, accept it, and know that the government subscribes to it and restates their numbers to ours. So that's the accuracy of using real data versus surveys or estimates. I encourage you to look at real spending. The intent, I can say I'm going to visit Hong Kong and I'm going to India next week. I might not spend $1 while I'm there, right? So surveying me at the airport, I might say I spent 1,000, right? So the issue is look at the reality, and this is what we're going to go through. So the key thing to understand is that business is nowhere in the United States in terms of investment and spending. Neither is government, despite what we all talk about. The consumer drives everything. It is 70% of the US economy. So if she, and I said she, why did I say she? 75% of all transactions are made by women, and gentlemen, we influence the other 25%, give it up, all right? So understand that, in my household especially. All right, so key thing to appreciate here is that the fact is she is driving this economy. So you need to know her. All right, you need to know what she thinks. Why is she loyal to you? Why does she not like you? These are the things that really matter. The other thing to understand is we talk a lot about personal debt. We're okay. We learned that in 2008. Before 2008, we lived OPM. What is OPM? Other people's money. All right, y'all borrowed. All right, so the key thing to understand now is we only spend what we have. That's why a phone is so valuable, because it's a cash management device for everybody. So the key thing to appreciate is assets have risen, debt has stabilized. Yes, it's risen a little bit. And people mentioned student debt. I want to make one comment about this. The key thing to understand in student debt is 17% of it is what we have to worry about, because those people borrowed but did not get the degree. Everybody else has a degree, has a job, and has better earning prospects. And so this is the key thing. And remember, it's at historically low interest rates. All right, so here we go. Here's what happened last year. Now, we have made a move in this country to spending on two things, all right? Because the most important thing is we like our family and friends again. We are all about experiences and spending time together. So we're doing two things. We're investing in our existing homes. We're not buying new homes. We're in existing homes. And we are traveling like there is no tomorrow. All right, and that is why I put a little kid in the overhead bin coming out here, because it was driving me nuts, right? No kids go to school anymore. They take vacation all the time, right? I travel 300 days a year. I assure you it's true. But the key thing to appreciate, this means this whole morph. Look at the restaurants, look at the lodging, look at the dining, right? But look at women's apparel. You are all naked. You have not bought clothes in a year, all right? And this is really important. That's a huge change, to look at apparel, department stores, mid-tier jewelry. By the way, jewelry is not discretionary. Shame on you. All right? So the important thing to recognize, though, is this is a huge shift in what we see in terms of spend, but it's the same spend. In fact, the last 2 years, the big Christmas gift has been the gift of a trip and not a Christmas sweater. Big difference in change in behavior. All right, here we are now. This is the report we come out monthly with. Look at how good spending is. So by the way, the government reported spending dropped in January and February. Incorrect, okay? Just be very clear. Remember, they survey 50,000 businesses. We get everybody, the smallest to the biggest. So the key thing to appreciate is look at that strength of that consumer. But be very clear, all right? Here's my doomy side. The challenge here is that this was bonus season. 2017 had record corporate profits in this country. People got bonused. We sold 17.6 million cars. All the auto workers got bonused. So the point is that money has come flying into the economy. The question is, does it continue? Okay, here's the tax question. The reality is it is too soon to know. What I will tell you is the majority of companies have only not reinvested in terms of new plants, hiring new workers, raising wages, but have actually, bought back more stock and done dividends. Only 50% of Americans have money in the stock market. So this does not benefit the majority of the economy. They do not spend it. Right? We've at MasterCard, we increased our contribution to the 401k matching. That's money saved. That doesn't help the economy. So the key thing to really recognize, we won't know till April 2019 when people actually pay their taxes if they're better off. And remember, 55 million Americans work in the gig economy, so they don't have withholding. So again, that didn't change. So the issue is it's way too soon to know. Come July, we'll have a big idea if there's a benefit or not. What I will tell you that scares the heck out of me is we are seeing inflation. Inflation in food, inflation in gasoline, inflation in other things. However, what I will tell you that is the very good news, Terry was spot on when he talked about unique goods, because 37% of spending in the United States is at small businesses. Businesses, the majority of them doing 10 million or less in annual retail sales. We are shopping small. What does that mean? It means I want you to know me, Sarah, right? And what I like. I don't want to look like someone else necessarily. That's an important thing. That doesn't mean that a big store has to have everything unique, but they have to negotiate products that they only sell, for example, and use that power. The other thing that's very important is 2 words: stop discounting. Shall I say it louder? Stop discounting, all right? Enough, because the reality is if I shop small, I am willing to pay full price. Absolutely. They can't give me a volume discount. So it's not the point that it's on sale that sells it. It's the point that I want it. I am a value for money consumer. If I value it, I'll pay for it. If I don't, it's a commodity. Yep, it's on sale. You've got to differentiate and move yourself into the value chain where people want to be. All right, gasoline. This scares me, all right? I've traded oil and gasoline for 30 years as a hedge fund manager. It's a very manipulated market. There is no shortage, folks, but they're like making you think there is. The bad news is it really does pull back on discretionary income when the price rises. So let's just pray it starts to drop again. It's really spiking for no reason. There's so much oil and gas out there. However, this is how we spent this month. Again, look at the same thing, hardware. Grocery was up because what? Early Easter, right? We actually do like our friends and cook once a year, right? And so that's the big difference. Automotive is automotive repair. That's the end of the auto cycle. When automotive repair goes up, new car sales drop. That's very significant for the US economy. And then as you can see, all the sectors this month were positive. Every single sector in the US economy. That's good news. All right, online. Terry stole my thunder. It's good. I like when he's correct. All right, so the important thing here to understand is this is growth of e-commerce. What I want you to recognize, though, the thing that scares me for you as retailers is the black line. What is the black line? The black line for the last 19 months shows the discounting going on to create the growth. Who the heck is making any money online? Last time I checked, you are profit centers. Right? And this is the issue that scares the heck out of me, is look at the discounting is increasing, right? And remember, don't forget you put in free shipping, free returns. You get everything in the wrong place when it's returned to store when it was bought online. Let's be really serious about this. You have to renormalize, right? We are social creatures. So I have a cost center, my daughter, Kate, she's 27. She just got a new job. I'm so thankful maybe she won't be a cost center, right? But the issue to understand is my daughter likes to be with me. And when she's with me, she's like, Mom, let's go shopping, right? Of course, with my MasterCard. But the point to understand here is we like to be with each other. We like that social experience. When you shop online, it's one-on-one, right? And the basket is smaller. We do not browse online. That is crazy. It is not true. We actually go in, buy the one thing we wanted, and we're out of there. You go into a store, your eye falls on everything. You stop in different departments you wouldn't have stopped in. That's the point of why bricks and mortar will always rule and will continue to be there. This is for convenience, for things like water that's heavy to carry, things like that. Commodity-like products sell online. Family apparel sells online because she's busy, right? She gets home 10 o'clock at night, she buys for the kids. Why? Because the other problem with online is returns, and no one has any time, and returns take time. And that's one of the biggest challenges. We don't care that they're free. It's still time is much more valuable to us. So the kid will grow into it, so that's why family apparel sells, right? But look at this. This is the growth rate I really wanted you to see, and exactly the point Terry's making. Let's just balance out the investment we're making in the online channel versus what's going on physically in store, right? And recognize that when we look around the world, the highest penetration online is in New Zealand and Britain, all right, which is close to 15%. That's it. For everybody who's going like crazy for online. So just keep it in mind. That's all I'm saying, right? And look at that electronics, a commodity-like product, sells online, but you get into more unique things like jewelry, it's not as much of a bigger penetration. This is the fact I want you to really take, though. 82% of people use that mobile device in the store. So I want you to curate on your website. Curate your brand. Why should I be with you? Why should I spend the time there? What's the value add? Does this dress come in yellow? Those types of things to really understand so people can easily get there. But more importantly, the first button online should be what? Where the heck is your store? Make store location easier and make me not fat finger on a mobile device. Because this is what people are doing. They're looking for information to help them, but we are overstored, right? Terry made the point. It's absolutely true. So the issue is how do we think about this? So the key thing is there's two real groups we talk about, all right? The millennials and the baby boomers. All right, so I'm a baby boomer, and the most interesting thing about my generation is you have to market to me for me, right? I'm the richest generation ever in the history of America, just so you know, right? But you also have to market to me for my daughter. Because we are the first generation that actually will spend. Just like Terry's dad, like my mom was the same way. No, like you're out of school, boom, here, you're off the payroll. We aren't that same way. So you have a huge opportunity set to market to me for my millennial child. She has a full-time job, lives in New York City, and I still pay for things. I am insane, okay? All right? But the reality is this is, and she got a new one and a raise, and I still pay. It's ridiculous. But the point is so does every other baby boomer in this room. So you have a great challenge to figure out how do you do that bifurcated marketing. It's a big job. We should up the pay for CMOs. All CMOs applaud, right? But this is the point. They have a bigger job to think about how to do this bifurcated marketing. Now, millennials, they're not, teenagers anymore. Let's be really clear. The oldest ones have kids, right? And this and that. But the difference is they're both working, right? And they want to live closer to where they work, so they no longer want to commute because they're both working and time is valuable. So you need to be near where they are. They're not going to buy the McMansion with the white picket fence in the suburbs. They just will not do it, right? And I was in your traffic yesterday, respectfully, love Tucson, but come on, right? And understand, this is the issue. They're not willing to waste their time that way. So the issue is how do you think about where your stores are to be near them? And then the other problem is we will have a labor problem going forward because none of us had any kids, right? And we're going to have to import labor because this is the thing that's very important. We all talk about man versus machine. Look, we do more artificial intelligence and learning, but it doesn't displace the 2,000 actual people that are data scientists that we hire. So be very clear, we are going to have a labor problem in this country, and the cost of labor is going to go up. And you can see in the population where everybody is, where it's growing, all right? It's growing out here, but we just haven't had kids, right? I pick up the Northeast corridor just to give you sort of a look here and really recognize one of the challenges of where everybody is. They're in Manhattan, they're in Baltimore, like places like that. So understand, they're not in the burbs, so you have to think about it. I live in Palm Beach, Florida. I gotta tell you, it's amazing, the young people down there, because the jobs are there. We learned in 2008 to go where the jobs are, right? And then we can actually map this to understand where we might be overstored and thinking about some of the places. One of the problems with Manhattan is there's too many stores right in Manhattan, even though you've got the population. And they need that tourist spending. That's why the dollar's so critical, because that's what makes up what Manhattanites can't do and those in the boroughs around can't do. And remember, the key thing I will tell you, someone who lives out in Westchester does not go into New York to shop. That's a myth. We see them shop out in Westchester. And this is the thing, is there's these little small concentric circles of how we work anymore. So you can see where people have moved. They're out in Washington, they're in Dallas, and they're down in Florida with me. And that's a critical thing. And then you see retail sales exactly maps to that. Are we surprised? Right? So this is the things that you've got to think about. All right, looking at consumer staples. Look at discount variety going up. The economy has been improving, and in fact, the fastest growing improving incomes have been the lower income people in terms of the United States, in terms of a percentage. The key is they have built loyalty programs, and those discount variety stores are where there are no other stores. They thought about it smartly. We're going to be the go-to retailer here. And even though these people can afford to shop elsewhere, they continue to shop there. That's the point of building loyalty no matter what. Grocery has improved, but be very clear, it's improving because of inflation. You don't cook, let me be clear, all right? You think putting something in the microwave is cooking. That is not cooking, all right? In fact, you go into the grocery store, you buy some fruit and veg, some milk, and beer, and you're out of there, right? And this is the point that we can see, and that is why the grocery store is physically shrinking, right? And again, it's a time issue, right? You'd rather spend time, so you'll go out to restaurants. This is the general merchandise, as you know, is the biggest retailer in the world and all its competitors. Look at this increasing thing, but what they did most importantly, they stopped fighting each other and discounting. Look at that, boom. That's the point of understanding and knowing your consumer, and how do you improve that? All right, discretionary, no clothes, right? Look at family apparel doing there, but women not coming along at all. Real challenge of what we're seeing here. But look at the discounting going on. Now, let's talk about clothing for a second, all right? We have a ton of clothing stores in this country. Some are just amazing, right? But one of the things that's really important, I work for a company that was started initially by all the banks in this country. We all used to wear suit and tie, fancy dresses to work. We now wear blue jeans every day. The more holes in the jeans, the better off you are. We play with Legos at work, all right? We are a tech company, all right? And so the point is our weekend wardrobe is our work wardrobe. People more and more are dressing casually for work, so therefore we will never buy the same volume of clothes, period, right? You don't have a work wardrobe and a weekend wardrobe. So think about what is the actual opportunity set. I've already told you we've got a population issue, and then we've got an issue that we don't have to dress up anymore, right? So we need to think about raising the average ticket of what we pay and making it nearer and dearer for people rather than thinking about the volume. So again, we have a merchandise problem and not necessarily a sales problem. And that's what I want you to be thinking about. And by the way, footwear no longer correlates. I think footwear is absolutely the most critical thing in my closet. I have a shoe closet that's ridiculous, right? But half the other people I know don't care about them, right? So you have to identify who's going to care about what, right? Department stores have been challenged, all right? Terry talked about it a lot. And it is a really important thing to recognize. Again, we've seen some real announced closures of stores. And again, it really comes to making certain you've got that unique edge. You're thinking about omni-channel. You're trying to work it forward, right? And this is where you can see the e-commerce play really starting to work. And you can see the discounting in the e-commerce also going away. So it's a real sense of getting the pricing right online. And this is one of the things you can do. Nothing says that the price you put online has to be the same in store. How about offering it cheaper physically in store, a little bit more expensive online? Because you're driving people in store. If they really want the good, they're going to come in store, and then they're going to buy additional things in the store. It's a different strategy, but it works. We do see a bit of improvement in the high-end versus the moderate department store. And I think that that's been a bit of a distinction. But notice they still pretty much move in tandem, which is an important thing to recognize. Luxury, all right? So everybody goes, the retail effect, right? Stock market at all-time high. Real estate prices have rebounded. That used to correlate to luxury spending, 100%. No longer does. But you know what? We dug into the detail. Remember, data is accurate, right? The U.S. consumer was never the luxury consumer. It actually was everybody who came from abroad that used to buy luxury in this country that really drove the sales up. And since I can prove, haven't been coming as much, you can see that luxury has really not improved and has been really challenged. You know, you even see that, they got nothing off of Black Friday, right? You can see in November. So it's really critical to recognize who exactly is your potential for the audience. And I will tell you, one of the things that many people do not realize, we are rejecting more visas than ever. All right, for people coming from other countries coming in here. So that also limits our population that's available to shop. So it's a really important thing to watch when you enter a sector to make certain your opportunity set is really viable. Can you really grow? That is critical. Handbags and luxury, has clearly started to improve. But remember, you're going against 3 years of seriously negative comps here. So remember, math can always be deceiving. So it's improving, but again, what's the opportunity set? Very important. Off-price. Now, off-price is doing really, really well. They did a fabulous job of finding a consumer that loves the treasure hunt. Personally, myself, I detest shopping. I can't think of anything worse, right? I love the business, but it's not me. But other people would love to go through racks and find that thing. They have made that a loyalty game. And this sector continues to do well and pull share because of that. It's not because of price. In fact, when I pull up the income dynamics of this sector and the spending, it skews extremely wealthy. So these people could shop elsewhere. They just like the hunt. It's very important. But look at this overall trend here, both for apparel, both for department stores. This is the point to understand how much are we going to buy in terms of clothing. It's a really critical thing to be looking at, right? Now, I said we've been buying. What saved Christmas for a lot of people was furniture and furnishings. And by the way, who is the leading group of people buying furniture and furnishings? Millennials, that is correct. Unbelievable, they are not living in our basements, let's be clear. All right, they have moved out. I'm very excited about this, as every other parent is, right? And I think this is really the point to recognize. They have established homes, they are buying. But this is the key thing. We're like, our incomes are better, so let's throw out the throw pillows and get new ones. Let's upgrade here. Let's do this because we want to be with our family and friends. We're entertaining at home. This is the key thing. And that's the type of spending we see. All right, but I said things are experiential. So look at this restaurant spend going up. So now in the United States, as a percentage of food spend, we are at 48.4% restaurant versus grocery, and millennials are 52% restaurant, 48% grocery. By the time we get to Generation Z, what do you think? Microwave only? No, but I'm really serious. What is it? It's really time, right? You pick up the kids from the after-school activities. Let's go grab a meal on the way home. We may take it home to eat, or we may sit there. But it's more about the time together, what happened during your day, right? It's not about food consumption. I adore cooking. I mean, I love to cook everything from scratch. Saturday night's the one night I cook, because that's the night I really have time to do it. Right? So I have what's called an investment banking refrigerator. In an investment banking refrigerator, you have mustard, mayo, and a bottle of champagne. That's it. Right? So and it's true. And that's what happens. And that's where more and more people are going. It's an important thing to recognize here. But this has huge implications for real estate when you think about how big our grocery stores are. Right? All right, and it's important for the general merchandise stores because we know that a lot of people pick up their groceries there. So it's the top-up grocery. I'm out of milk. I'm out of, some fruit, right? Those types of things. Look at this restaurant spend. It's huge. Came down a little bit because it was growing at 6 to 8% per month for the last 3 years. Huge numbers. And then we're flying, as I said, all the time. This airline ticket is bought 2 months ahead of time. And then if I put up the online travel agencies, they're growing at 20% year over year. I'm telling you, this is what we're doing. But the good news for all of you retailers is only 40% of us have a passport. We're not leaving the island. So the key thing to understand is when we go on holiday here in the US, we go and take 1 full day and go shopping. At stores, we know that we could shop at home because we have time. So the key thing about that is, can they know where you are? Have you branded correctly? Have you reached out to them? Do they know where your store is? One of the things is South America was in deep recession with stagflation the last 3 years. But Miami didn't drop 1 iota because we all started going there, even in the summertime, right? And this is it. And then everyone went to the Aventura Mall down the street. So it's an amazing sort of thing to think about how, and really understanding the cadence of your consumer and what she's doing. Lodging, very important. I know we've got Hilton coming up. Other lodging, they've had an amazing run. This will continue. This picks up the driving consumer as well. So travel, 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 right? Just a couple things. Brexit, ouch, right? But we finally see with the pound improving, a bit of resurgence of British spending coming back in, which is critical. Very important for the department stores. By the way, the Brits are the last economy in the world where we see consistent improvement in department store spending, right? So this is why it's so important the department stores over here pull them in when they come on in over here. Chinese. We all used to think about this as the Holy Grail. Look at this. Big change in their spend all over the world. They are staying home. This is a very important thing to recognize. So it's a big change. If your whole marketing campaign is dependent upon these people, it's not going to happen, and that's a critical thing. They have gone to Japan, though. So you see the transference of what happened. It's staying closer. Big change of what you can actually see in the spend. Just a couple things. Huge inflation in the UK since the Brexit vote, and very important to recognize they are going to be really challenged. They import everything, and it's critical. And as you can watch, the key thing to watch is price-adjusted sales. See how they continue to drop? Where I've taken the inflation out to really understand that that consumer is very challenged. And their e-commerce, even though it's been a big grower, and as I said, they're the #1 country, see their drop coming, right? And this is the point when you watch an economy and see the changing. Their family apparel, very different, all right? So, and still sort of growing up in that space. Hong Kong really has been there was a crackdown on, gifting, and we've seen, a fairly visible way to deter that, as you know, in the mainland China. And so we've seen, look at their retail sales, like huge retail sales drop. A slight improvement has come back recently, but very, very modest compared to what we always used to see, right? So I'm going to end on something, and then I'm going to take some questions. Terry talked about branding, all right? So many of you might know our Priceless campaign. Priceless turns 20 this year, all right? And it might be amazing. And we started with pictures of people with their family doing amazing things, right? And we would say, that's priceless, and for everything else, there's a MasterCard, right? That was our first slogan with Priceless. And then we evolved it. And we evolved it first into Priceless Cities. And by the way, if you have a MasterCard, go on to pricelesscities.com, and you'll see for each city, major city in the world, we have priceless deals for MasterCard holders. So again, it was a way to say a location can be priceless, right? Now remember, folks, we never sell to an individual. We never sell to you. We are totally a business-to-business business. But think about that. We focus on branding to the consumer to drive our business-to-business work. And then we went from there to priceless surprises. We really do have Justin Timberlake show up to people's houses and start playing music. It's really a fact, all right, and such. So we do priceless surprises all over the world. And then we've evolved it finally to start something priceless. And the reason that I think this is so important is that I want you to think about what is priceless in your life, all right? It might be something you do with your family. It might be travel for you. It might be helping out in volunteerism. For me, it is financial inclusion, especially for women worldwide. Because I know if I can get women included financially in the global economy will improve, and we will get people out of poverty globally. So that's my Start Something Priceless. And what we ask of everybody is figure out what your priceless is, and then use social media to tell people about it. You'd be amazed how many people are inspired and want to join you in your priceless. And we think that's the way to get people going together, because it is all individual. And that's the key thing about branding. How do we brand something as a bigger concept, but make it personal to everybody? And we know that is absolutely priceless. So with that, I'm happy to take some questions, comments. You can boo, hiss, whatever you want to do. And if there's no questions, I'll talk for 2 other seconds. But if you have questions, lights up, microphones on either side. Hold on, the mic's coming to you. I'll talk trade war in a second, too. Yep. Perfect question. All right, so the question for those who couldn't hear is, you have taught your consumer how to expect discounts all the time, so you've delayed their behavior. How do you teach them otherwise? I'll tell you the most important thing you do is you start to differentiate yourself. You start to educate them what is really special about you, what is unique, what can they get with you that they can't get anywhere else, which might be service, by the way. Because, by the way, there's inflation in service in this country. There's deflation in goods. So what you do is you start to slowly but surely wean them off the discounting and the advertising and the branding and start to say, what do I have that they can't get elsewhere? Because the only way they're going to pay for something much more and pay full price is because you have something they can't get elsewhere, and you deliver it in an easy and convenient way to them. And that is the most important thing, and that is very critical. Other questions, comments? There's one right down here.
Thank you. So Sarah, you talked right at the very beginning about making data into information, into wisdom, but all of the data you showed us was historical. How about the holy grail of predictive analytics? Because, you know, there's a trend, but there's a blip. Is that blip going to start another trend, or is it just a blip?
So it's interesting. It's a great question about that. The key thing to really understand is we are not schizophrenic people. All right? And we actually really, each of us has a propensity to spend, and what you're seeing is the aggregated propensities. So while there can be a blip, we, for example, this year would take, for example, March and April together to measure Easter this year versus last year, right? So you can see, obviously, it's way up in March. Will it continue into April to really measure, was there real strength in Easter spending this year versus last year? That's an example. But it actually is terribly predictive to really understand. Now, we do forecasts going out, and it's another set of data I just didn't bring with me that we can actually do and see. But you also have to understand some of the correlations, and we really determine which correlations still hold and which don't. Like that car correlation still very much hold the negative, repairs versus new car sales, and really appreciating some of the trends. But one of the things to really appreciate, for example, the spending on hardware and on furniture and furnishings has been a 2-year phenomenon now, and people have been really late to appreciate how much people decided to really invest. And think about what it says about the economy. It's saying, I can buy a durable good. I can buy a sofa I'm going to pay for over 3, 4, 5 months. So I feel I have the confidence to pay. So I'm confident I've got my job and I can make that expenditure over a period of time. When we watch furniture spending drop versus furnishings, that's when we get a bit concerned, because again, we're saying, okay, I can buy the throw pillow, but I'm not feeling I can make that bigger purchase. So it is very predictive, and this is the key thing. We see those trends, and you can see the long-term trend line when I showed some of like the department stores and specialty apparel, or the restaurants and grocery. Those tend to hold. They don't really turn very much. So when you get in that long-term trend line, it takes a heck of a lot to turn that thing, and to really appreciate that. Over here, and then I've got here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Hi, Jason from Supima. Just had a quick question. The slide on the growth of off-price retail I found really interesting, and that's something that we're seeing as well. We're having a lot of premium brands approach us and talk about how this doesn't hurt a brand anymore, and the income level of the shopper at these off-price retails. So are you seeing, what's your thoughts on actually positioning premium brands at not hurting the brand anymore, and how do traditional retailers sort of look at this model, the throttling of goods and the treasure hunt, and adapt to that model?
Well, and I think this is the real point, to really recognize. Now remember, there's a lot of people like myself who don't want to do this, right? So you have to realize you've got this specialized population carved out, but it's obviously significant, right? It's significant in terms of contributing to the overall economy. So I don't think you hurt your brand anymore by wanting to be in there, all right? And I think this is, but you have to differentiate that, couture, all right, which is, one of a kind, should not touch that. But the more mass part of that can clearly touch and differentiate in there, because again, you do have this consumer that is skewing much higher. And I think this is the key thing to recognize. Same thing with, if you go down to general merchandise stores, their income level has definitely skewed up, because again, remember my comment of value for money consumers. And it's really, how do people value, spending their time and what they spend on. And this is the thing where we continue to see that spending change one way or the other. Yes, right here.
Just a quick question on the percentage of e-commerce versus retail, because from my understanding, it's a little bit skewed, because in the retail figures you have things like gas and groceries and so on, or is that all excluded?
That does not include gas in there. All right, so gas is always excluded when you do e-commerce, because we know that's always physical, right? So that's not the case. So it is ex-gas. It does include grocery, because grocery is done online, as you know. So that's an important thing to recognize. Now, obviously, it's not a huge percentage done online. And so it's not really skewed. And I think, just to appreciate, I think the importance of it is, look, what we're really seeing is something we talked about, I think 3 years ago or 4 years ago in the conference, which was omni-channel. I think what's happened is we finally have reached the point where omni-channel exists. Right? And we really are differentiating, those retailers who successfully have been able to find that omni-channel space versus those who are looking at it still very separately. And I think, like, if you have a separate marketing department for your online versus your in-store, that's a real mistake, right? They are one and the same, and really appreciating that. So it really doesn't understate it. The real issue is, what I think people aren't really thinking about is, I believe there's an absolute ceiling for e-commerce. And we can only go so high, right? In other words, I think that it's going to continue to grow, but again, at some point, remember, we do like each other. We are out together. We don't want to sit there and that one-on-one experience of you and the machine, you know, look, we all do that for work all day. Why do I want to do that for something that is social and pleasurable and things like that? So again, that's why shopping centers exist. We really want to go in there, dine together, which is what we do first when we go there, and then we're going to walk around and enjoy the visual. And I think that's the point. I think they're going to call me off the stage. I got one more left, and then they're going to give me the hook. So I'm out of here. Right here, right here, right here. No. Go ahead. She's handing it. Run.
So in some of your slides, you talked about the growth in the experiential part of, let's say, part of spending, right? What do you see as sort of leading edge where there is a convergence between retail and experience?
Well, there already is. It's already completely there, all right? If you think about it, when you go into an airport anymore, how much retail is there? You go abroad, it's all there. And in fact, Changi Airport in Singapore has a loyalty program for local people who go out in Singapore to shop at the airport. Think about that, right? So appreciate the whole point to understand that it is already converged into this experience, and that's the point where you have to start to get on that bandwagon quickly to appreciate these dollars are being spent and how do you capture them with you. And I think that that's the case. But understand that we are not going to stop traveling. We are not going to stop dining out together. We're not going to stop that whole social side. Because again, think about the millennials. They went through hell. They couldn't find jobs. They came out where there was a world that had completely changed, and they watched their parents work like dogs, lose their pensions, banks went bankrupt, and it's a once-in-a-lifetime event. It only happened in 1928 before, right, where you had the permanent loss of capital. So this turning of the consumer to say, well, I don't care. The business didn't care about me, so I don't have to care about it anymore. I do care because my family and friends didn't leave me. Remember that. That is exactly what drives her spending. And with that, I'm out of here. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.